at that. A squared, 386. Traveling around the world. We got a guy in LA, a guy in the UK, and Alexandra Chando in Austin, Texas.
Hi.
How's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Really, a real pleasure. Honestly, Alexandra, I love what you do. Not just, as an actress, you're a great actress who, you started on your own show, you've been on many shows, and but I love what you do outside of the acting world too. You have many hobbies and interests, and let's jump right into it. So you started your own podcast, the Her Voice podcast, and
yes.
Tell us a bit about how that started for you.
Well, it was kind of it branched off of Her Voice, which is a part of Mammoth Film Festival. It's the Female Filmmaker Initiative. I'm the festival manager and one of the original 5 team members of the festival, of Mammoth Film Festival. And so we decided that we needed our own female filmmaker initiative, which we call Her Voice. And from that, we thought that the best way to kind of implement a little bit of maybe change or just have a platform, we wanted to create a podcast. And that's what we did.
All right. Well, how cool, why specifically Her Voice? What is it about? How did that start? I know it's part of the Mammoth Film Festival. What's the origins of it all?
Well, I think, we started Mammoth. It was right around when everything kind of started happening with the big push for gender parity and Time's Up and all of that. And obviously it was really important to the guys and to me to do a program that really supports female filmmakers. And we felt the need to create a space for women and help them to, be connected to other women. And I think this past year at Mammoth, I did an event and we did a mentorship aspect. That was the first year we did that. And I teamed up our panelists with emerging female filmmakers, and it was a hit because they had the opportunity to sit with these women for 20 minutes and chat with them about their projects and then go off and continue the relationship. So I'm pretty proud of it. It's pretty cool.
I will say how cool, because in the film world, a lot of filmmakers are male, and you see these Hollywood circles and they're mostly male Hollywood circles, But what I love about what you've been able to do is you've really been able to find all these, great female filmmakers and really shine a spotlight on them and also bring them together.
Yeah.
And have, let them know each other and support each other.
That's the thing. It's the women, we need to support each other. And it's hard. It's been hard for me just to kind of kick down doors to try and, as I'm directing now, it's it's hard. As a woman, you have to do so much more to prove yourself and to say that you're qualified. And so it's a uphill climb, but we're making strides. There's certainly, I think now there's maybe 5 years ago, there was 7% of women that were directing on television. And now I think it's 23%, which still isn't that. I mean, it's a big jump, but it's still 23 out of 100% is still not quite there.
Right. It is a huge jump though in the past couple of years. And, I look forward to it, keep growing because, different, diverse voices actually make diverse content, which is really cool. I want to see new things, not the same things over and over again. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
And I think moving forward, that's how it's the path is going in that direction. It's becoming more diverse because that's what people are requesting. And okay, although 23% isn't a large number, the better measurement is the progress that's happening. So from 7 to 23 in 1 year, that's actually a big jump compared to the history of how female women filmmakers have been represented in the past.
Sure. Yep, exactly.
But I think we maybe have to be a bit we shouldn't place so much pressure on ourselves. I mean, especially obviously women, female filmmakers, they shouldn't place so much pressure on themselves to make that massive jump to directly, you know, like 50%, 60% of representation. Because like it's a slow build up. And in everything, especially in an industry that's heavily saturated. So it's like really saturated. It's not that easy to just get into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you, Alexandra. So you are part of the Mammoth Film Festival. Do you want to tell us like how that got started, and then also what films really shine through, you know, in a film festival situation? I bet you've watched many films.
Oh yeah,
and can tell me about it. Yeah.
Well, the festival started 5 years ago. Tanner Beard and Tom McMansouri, they got together. Tanner had this idea for a film festival. He came because Mammoth is very near and dear to him. I'm forgetting why now, but it's one of my best friends. I forget. I don't know. And him and Tom came together, and they wanted to start this film festival. You know, I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on is like we're a film festival by filmmakers for filmmakers, and so, or for filmmakers by filmmakers. So we, you know, Tanner has had films everywhere, all over the world, and you know, he's produced a bunch of films, and so he has a bunch of experience in film at film festivals, and so he kind of wanted to create his own and do it in a way that created more of a community for filmmakers. And so that's, like I said, we pride ourselves on creating this community and this accessibility for people. We have big name talent and big name executive producers and executives at our festival that are accessible to emerging filmmakers. And, you know, we hope that we can maintain that as we continue to grow. We are very fortunate that like in our first few years, we've been able to get those names, and then it's just easy because it is a smaller festival to kind of bring these people together. But the hope is to continue to grow and then also continue that. But the movies, I mean, we watch, oh my gosh.
How do you make a good movie?
Yeah, we watch so many short films and so many features, and we watch a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones. I mean, you know, you can't say they're bad because it's everybody's trying and everybody's like putting forth their like best foot forward. However, some of them need help and some work. But that's the point of like short film, right? Like people are learning. They're just throwing it against a wall and seeing if it sticks. So like, I think when we judge and when we watch, so we don't judge the finals. We watch all of the submissions and then say which ones get in. And then we have a group of judges who actually like pick the winners. But for our submissions, one of the biggest things that we look at is like, you know, we understand that not everybody has a massive budget to work with, you know, like there might be and I'm talking shorts more so, but like there might be a short that's like $1,000 short and the quality may not be that great, but the story is great. The characters are great. The acting is great. So we really kind of weigh it out in that way, because then on the other front, you can have something that looks amazing, but it's like not a great story. It's poorly acted. It's poorly executed. And so we really kind of have to like check ourselves and remember that a lot of these are emerging filmmakers, and they don't necessarily have the means to hire an amazing DP who can make it look amazing for $1,000, you know? They don't have the resources. But I think as far as features go, it's stuff that moves us. It's stuff that really makes us feel something and feel like it's entertaining, or, you know, it's a great story. Yeah, I mean, we just kind of go on a it's like case by case.
Not to switch it too much, but you kind of said, so acting and stories are kind of the two things that when you watch it, regardless, you know, the quality could vary with cinematography, but as long as those two things are there, you know, it makes a great story. And from what I understand, you know, you've had a great history of acting, and now you want to move into the directing world, right? And direct your own TV. What is it? Why are you going in that direction more as opposed to going more in the acting direction?
Well, I mean, I'm 35. I started acting
Mm-hmm.
when I was 16, and I had a lot of success in my late teens and my 20s, and then the industry changed. The industry has changed so drastically since I started, and I kind of like have seen the industry change in waves for a while, and I just kind of hit a point where the business of acting just kind of started to not feel good for me anymore. But then also too, you know, when I did Lion Game, I played 2 roles, and it was the first job that I ever did where I actually was on set for so long that I really got to see what was going on behind the scenes. And, you know, being in almost every scene, and some of them with yourself, like you have to have a really good communication with the guest director and with the DP. And so that's where I learned, and I was like, I could do this. Like I could direct. I had that like brain anyway. Like I was thinking like a director and thinking like a producer. And so I started shadowing because I wanted to educate myself. I didn't want to just be like an actor who wanted to direct and then that was it. So I really put in the work, and I worked hard, and the bottom line is like, I just felt like I had more to offer. Like I was feeling unfulfilled acting. I still love to act. I still audition. But directing for me, like when I'm on set, I feel like I'm in my purpose, and I just enjoy it. It's hard. Like it's hard to break into. Like I just got into the Sony directors program, which is amazing.
Yeah,
thank
congrats
you.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. But you know, after that, it still doesn't guarantee me an episode of television. Like it's, I still have to do it myself and you know, work really hard. But yeah, I just felt like I had more in me than just like, and also too, I wanted to take more control of my life. Like it sucks auditioning and like waiting for somebody to give you a job, and that's your life. Like you wait to audition, and then you wait to get an answer whether you got the job or not. And when you get a lot of no's, which like every actor does, it's just, you know, you have to find something else to do with your life in the meantime. Not to say forever, but like there's got to be other things, you know.
Yeah.
So I kind of hit that point.
So you said that you've been starting since you were acting since you were 16, and that alone sounds, you know, like it's obviously the acting business is crazy by itself, but starting off at a young age in your teens, like what are some of the crazy shit that you've been seeing since that age? I'm pretty sure you've been like exposed to a lot of interesting stories and like experiences. So I don't know if you want to share or talk about it.
I'm trying to think. Well, the thing is like I did my first TV pilot when I was 16, but I was still in high school, and I was still kind of just like like in a normal life. I wasn't really like a child actor. I did a pilot. I grew up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is like an hour and 20 minutes outside of New York City. So I was auditioning all through high school. And then I booked this pilot. I flew to LA with my mom for like 3 weeks to shoot it. It didn't get picked up. So then I just kind of like auditioned in high school, but had a normal life. And then it wasn't until I booked a soap opera, booked As the World Turns, when I was 18, just turning 19. And that was crazy because I was living in the dorms. I was in New York at school. I moved out of the dorms into my own apartment, and I had never really been exposed to a lot of the things that I was exposed to. So, and I will say, like, those were the days, you know, that was like 2006.
The 2000s.
Yeah.
Best time to be alive,
but those were the days like before Me Too and before all that, everything happened, and everybody kind of started getting really like careful on set. And I say that only because like the shit that we talked about and the shit that was said in the makeup room and in the hair room, like, you know, I learned that, you know, I had my first experience, you know, my first friendship with like an openly gay man, you know, like all of these things that you don't really think about. But looking back, I was like, wow, living in New York during that time period and being on that show and being exposed to like all different walks of life and all of that, like really kind of shaped who I was. but yeah, it was just, I don't know. I can't think of like specific stories, but I do remember that time in my life was very important and very kind of crazy to think back on, because I also was like very lonely. Like I was living in New York by myself. I couldn't go out to bars to drink really. If I wanted to go out, I had to like go to a club with a promoter because he could sneak me in. Like it was just a very weird,
Very
lonely
shady
time. Like I would work all day and then like go home and eat dinner by myself and go to bed, learn my lines, and like do it all over again the next day.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
No,
So
Not really
mentally,
answer your question, but it kind of like
No,
gives insight to what my life was like at 19.
There's an insight.
And like, what kind of approach mentally did you have to that lifestyle, obviously, and then eventually you hit 21 and then your 20s, like meeting all these different people and like not expecting to meet these kind of people in that industry, because
Right.
I feel like you have to have a very open mind to be able to like just accept what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like, oh fuck, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think like, you know, even though I grew up like in Pennsylvania and I wasn't like super sheltered. I mean, I knew about, I had a pretty open family and, you know, I was aware of things. I was just introduced to them like right in my face very quickly, being on the soap opera. And I feel like, yeah, I had to have an open mind, but I also, there was a part of me that because I was used to what I was used to, I was also very shy. It's interesting because like I'm an introvert. I can be outgoing when I need to be, but my default is usually shy and introverted.
It's interesting because you have a podcast and you meet people and you bring people together in a dinner party and you're hanging out.
I know. Well, it's here's the thing. I'm also like a Leo and I'm also very, like, I'm a leader. So when it's me kind of like being the leader, I can like lock in and really do it. But it's just like when I'm in a group of people that I don't know, I get very shy and I get very introverted. So there was a lot of growth there for me trying to be open, but also like, you know, understanding that, I don't know. I can't, it's hard to explain, but you know what I'm saying, I guess. I don't know. Right. I'm not answering your question. Ask me another one.
I'll ask you a different one. So I just want to, not to go on this too much, you know, I'd like to move on after this, but just, when you were, you know, so young, 16, 17, 18, and, you know, you were, you know, all about acting and, you know, being on TV, you know, there's a great documentary of you, you know, starting out in your first year and, you know, loving Freddie Prinze Jr. and the whole, you know, Hollywood celebrity life. And I mean, you knew back then, right, that, you know, acting is all about waiting to audition, to waiting to get the role. I don't think that's changed since, you know, all of acting, you know, that's pretty much been consistent. But was it like, what else has like changed for you? Like, how come like back then you were more, you know, excited for it, but now you're like, okay, I want to create my own opportunities?
Well, I've gotten old and jaded. The industry can jade you very quickly. Well, I think it's...
Sorry, and when you talk about the changes in Hollywood, I'm curious to know what you mean about that, because from what I understand, Hollywood's getting better for, you know, people, especially like women and diverse people. So this is, you know, a little confusing. It doesn't match really for me. Yeah.
Well, I think, so the first part of that, the answer is when I was younger, like I said, I was very fortunate. I booked the soap opera. I did that for 2 years. I didn't even want it when I got it. Like, I was like, I don't even think I want to be on a soap opera. So it was a very like, I think when you're younger, you don't need it, you know, like I could have just stayed in college and like I didn't have to make money and I didn't have to like pay rent. I didn't have to do any of that. Like the pressures of being an adult weren't quite there yet. So it was like, all right, I'm going to take this soap opera. I made a good amount of money. And then after the soap, I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. Like, this is my career now. And which I was like totally happy. And I knew that I needed to leave New York and go to LA. Because at the time, you had to be in LA. Like New York was fine. You had like Law and Order and a couple of other shows, but like ultimately LA was the place you needed to be to succeed. So I moved to LA and I did like 1 or 2 guest stars. And I actually ended up moving back to New York because I hated LA so much. And I did a movie and then I went back to LA and I didn't work for like a year. But like in that time, I thought not working for a year was like so long. Cut to like now I haven't worked in a long time and now like, a year would have been really great. And then I booked Lion Game. And then after Lion Game, it was like, cool. I booked a pilot and then I booked another pilot after that didn't get picked up. So it was like my 20s were easy, I will say, you know, like I was super fortunate in the sense that like work was coming. And I think for me, the pressure was less so because I had money coming in and, you know, I lived a pretty modest life. So it wasn't like I was like spending money really quickly. Like, so I think the pressures were different. I think as I got older, it became more of a serious thing of like, I need to support myself. I need to like, you know, make enough money so I can live. And quite frankly, like I ran out of money. You know, like it got really hard. And so it was around that time too, where like it was like, if you imagine like an hourglass with like the sand going through,
right,
like sand, I'm like watching the sand go down like, as my bank account goes down and I'm like, I'm running out of time. And it happened, right?
Sure.
Like, so there's so much pressure.
Yeah. Wow.
The second part of that is during Lion Game, there were like the whole first part of my 20s, there was no Instagram, there was no nothing. So, I mean, there's Facebook, but like, so even during Lion Game, Instagram, I think I joined Instagram the second season of Lion Game. And at that point it was like, whatever, it wasn't a thing. And so I saw a huge change. And unfortunately, Lion Game wasn't on long enough to get me like 1 million followers, right? So we just missed the boat. And so unfortunately, like as I started auditioning for other things and as like followers, it wasn't influencing yet, it was like followers, that became a thing. Whoa. Like I would lose jobs because somebody else had more followers than me. So that became like a huge thing. I would be in audition rooms and the girl next to me was like a Vine celebrity, but has never acted on a show in her life. And they would give her the job over me because she has X amount of followers and she's like known for like whatever, but you can't carry a show. And so that started happening and I was losing out on work because of it. And like I said, I'd missed the boat of like getting the followers from my TV show. So then like, how do you grow a following unless you're doing like Vine shit, you know? So that kind of changed things. And then for me personally, like I also, it sounds stupid and I'm dealing with this now. I'm 35. I don't look 35. I look younger than what I am. I always have. And so I started to slip through the cracks where like I would audition for things, but I wouldn't be right for it because I would look too young, or they would want me to go in for like an 18-year-old and I was 28 and I was like, I don't want to play an 18-year-old. So it was like this weird, so things just started really changing in that way. And you know, and then, you know, the diversity push came and for a while, like it hit really, really hard. And so like, you know, I wasn't even in rooms because I was white, which is fine. But at the same time, it's like, well, now we're so far on this side of things that I'm not even getting auditions. So it just like, it really took its toll.
Yeah. That was an amazing insight, Alexandra. Thanks for, you know, sharing all that.
Sure.
You know, when I watch a movie, the first thing I think, oh, how many subscribers, how many followers does this person have, right? just being sarcastic here.
Yeah.
It's like,
It doesn't translate either.
It doesn't translate, right? I mean, no wonder movies are getting and shows are, may not be the best because if that's how they're casting people based on, the number of followers, it doesn't translate to how good of an actor you were, Kind of wish back for the 2000s days when at least there wasn't social media back then.
I think it's changing now a little bit. I think people are realizing that the model doesn't translate. Like, if you hire somebody because they have 20 million followers, it doesn't necessarily mean that those 20 million followers are going to watch that person in a movie. Like, it doesn't necessarily translate. Watching a 15-second story is a little different than watching a 2-hour movie.
Right.
It's interesting that when you said the diversity push happened, that white women were cast aside. Like, for me, it doesn't make sense because, like, women should be also included in that push. So, like, I'm a bit confused. Like, why were they cast aside? Like, what's the situation?
Well, there were just no roles. Like, they changed every role to a diverse role. So they weren't even auditioning, like, and it wasn't just white women, it was white men too.
We just need more roles and more people and all that jazz.
I don't know. I still see like white men in the blockbusters all the time. So, like, it's just like
I know. Well, there. I'm talking more like I'm talking more TV world.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting thing because, like, the first year that it happened, it was one of those things where, like, Hollywood has this way of, like, overcorrection, right? And overcompensating, where then they wouldn't even, and this is my biggest thing with what has been going on in Hollywood with diversity is, I think we need it. I think we need representation. I think that we're getting there now. Like, look at Coda and look at all of these movies that are coming out. Like, representation is so important and it matters. However, I think those first few years of this diversity push, what was happening is these executives were just taking roles that were written for white people and just changing them Black or changing them Hispanic so they weren't even written for that group. They were just like flip-flopped to check the box, right? And so and that's not representation. That's not telling a story based off of that group or, that person of color. It's just saying, okay, well, we have to meet a quota. So here we're just going to throw that person in there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right,
and
exactly.
and it doesn't serve the story. So
it's all about serving the story. Yeah.
Right. And so now at least, like, we're kind of like starting to get to a place now where, like, at least the stories that are being told are serving those people, like the group of that, that the people of color that they're trying to tell the story about. It's getting better. But for a while, and that's frustrating too, when you're like, okay, like, this was meant to be played by X and now they're just throwing Y in there, and, like, that doesn't make sense either.
Right.
But that's Hollywood.
That's Hollywood for you. It makes no sense.
I've also noticed in the diversity push is that due to the lack of proper representation, like you were mentioning, how they just change the color and, like, place in the TV shows. A lot of these, like, independent filmmakers just started creating their own shows or, like, short films, and, like, we've been talking to some of them recently in our past couple of episodes, and they've been telling us, like, they just wanted to create their own thing so that it can actually properly talk about their communities or their traditions or their cultures. So, for example, filmmakers from India and, like, talking about the Punjabi or Sikh communities that are living in the US or something like that, and then trying to connect that, like, that continent with this continent, North America with the South Asian continent, just putting them together in a more international kind of audience, because, like, this type of representation seems to be growing a lot more. And I'm trying to relate it in a sense to why you're going into directing, as in, like, you're trying to create your own type of representation.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, like, obviously I'm a white woman, but for me, the representation is female characters, right? So, like, every job that everything that I've directed thus far, the genres are different, the stories are different, but I'm such a character-driven actor and I'm a character-driven director, like, or storyteller. For me, the through line is these like really interesting female characters that are, you know, well-rounded, very real, whether they're good or bad people. And so for me, that is my push for representation. It's like just showing, just having more women on screen in a way that is like, you know, interesting.
What are the personality traits? And what are like the personality traits that you like to put into your female characters? The ones especially that for you to, you know, act in.
Sure. I mean, I tend to, looking back at a lot of the characters that I have, the projects that I've directed with characters, I like women who kind of stand unapologetically in their truth. Women who stand for something, and whether it's good or evil, like you can relate. Because, you know, like you think about, do you guys watch Ozark?
It's on my list. I still haven't watched it yet.
Yes.
Okay, so kind of a bad example if you don't know it, but basically Jason Bateman, his character, he does bad shit. Like he does really bad shit, but he does it for the better and the like the goodness and the protection of his family, right? So like he's so humanized because you can really relate to it. You're like, oh, this guy's like not doing some good things, but you understand why, and you get it, and it's like, oh, it makes it kind of okay. Those types of characters really interest me.
Like the Lion Game.
You try to flip the script and make it a woman. Yeah.
Like the Lion Game, where it is pretty cool that it's pretty complicated and they're different. You know, it's about people who are liars, but they're also trying to. It's for a reason. Everyone has their own reasons to have their own secrets, and I think, you know, you're pretty right. You're spot on about that. That, you know, a lot of times you see women that are, you know, perfect in Hollywood, and they try to do it that way, which is great, obviously. But it would be cool to see some like more character actors and women play those too.
And it's starting to change. It's happening. Like it's changing. I'm directing my first feature next this fall.
What?
Yeah.
How cool.
And
let's go.
And it's a female heist movie set in the 90s in West Texas. So it's a little bit of a Western. It's like action, and it's, you know, obviously there's like a heist involved, but there's really strong, really like badass female characters. Now, granted, there's really interesting men as well. Like that's the other thing. You know, I'm an equal opportunist. Like I don't want everything to be all women. Like I don't think that's equality. So there's some really cool male characters in there as well.
So not like Ocean 8 type.
No. No, but yeah. So those and the reason that I love that script is because of the two female leads.
How cool! Okay. I mean, you know, I was just gonna ask you about that because you said you want to direct for TV, but now it says you want to direct for film. So just for you, you want to direct.
I want to do it all.
You want to do it all.
Really branching out, you know, it's like all the opportunities, I want to take them.
Yeah.
Hey, no, how cool. No, I mean, if you're, you know, making your own path, how cool. I mean, I can't wait for, you know, your film.
You know, it's interesting when you were talking about the Ozark example, and like those kind of characters are definitely very interesting because they're people who, you know, they're not usually, you don't find them in the common world where just like they are willing to be like the anti-hero, you know, like for example, from Marvel, I know there's like the Punisher, but so would you say you believe in there's this quote, I forgot how it goes exactly, but it's like the actions, like Ali, I don't know if you can help me with this, but like the deeds explain the outcome or something like that. I know it's along those lines. I have no idea how to. It's a very common one. It's like when people say it's like the results are basically the they like justify the actions. So I
Yeah.
don't know
Result
if you
justifies the
understand.
means, right?
Yeah,
That
the
one?
ends. Yeah, the
Yes,
ends
ends
justify the means.
justifies the means.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I don't know if
Bingo.
you're. So it sounds like your character kind of like relates to that quote.
Yeah, but I think like that's what we are as humans, right? Like I was listening, I don't know who it was. Was it Jared Leto? Somebody was talking about, maybe it wasn't Jared Leto, but it was a recent interview where they were like, when you're, oh no, it was Jacob Elordi, the guy from Euphoria. I was watching.
How cool. Yeah.
Do you guys ever watch that show, Hot Ones, where they eat chicken wings?
Yes,
Yeah,
I love that.
yes, of
That's a
course.
great one. That's
Love
a great
that
show. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
perfect.
I was watching it with Jacob Elordi, and he was saying that that when you play a villain, like 9 times out of 10, like some people are just evil and they know they're evil, but when villains don't know they're villains oftentimes.
Yeah,
And
they
so
probably have like a psychological issue.
yeah, or just like because they believe that what they're doing or what they believe in or what their end is not evil or is not bad. How would they know that they're a villain, or how would they know that they're hurting people sometimes? Granted, like you need some self-awareness, but I definitely think that there's something to that where it's like oftentimes like sometimes people just don't know that what they're doing is not, necessarily great.
A good villain character is so rare and also so good. When you see a good villain character in a show or a movie, it's kind of perfect.
Well, they're humans too, right? So like they have their goals and like why they do what they do. It's not just to be an asshole.
Pretty much, and that's what makes it interesting is the philosophy aspect of it,
Yeah.
But I know we're wrapping up on time, so I do want to ask you real quick. So, advice for young actors. You said you moved out here, and you've been through it. So
go do something else. No.
Go do something.
This is not the industry for you. Just like that.
No, I would say, and this is what I always say, it's like, if you want to be an actor, that's awesome, but like you have to really, really love it, because there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of heartbreak, there's a lot of rejection, and so if there's other things that you can do, go do those. But like oftentimes people are like, no, all I want to do is be an actor, and that's beautiful and that's great, and so work hard and find a way to make supplementary income. That's a big one. I always think about this. I'm like, damn, if I could do it all over again, I would have learned a trade. So like when I'm not acting, I can just be doing the trade, and that's like my paycheck. Because it's also really hard too when you have to audition and like you have to be open to audition, right? So like that's why actors a lot of times are waiters or because they work nights, and so their day is open to audition. It's a little different now because like you put stuff on tape, and so you have a little more freedom and a little more leeway. You can work during the day, but for the longest time, like you couldn't work a full-time job because you had to be able to have the freedom to go audition. So like the response to that is, so then what else can you do that's maybe not waiting tables, that's like a trade or something that can help supplement that income? A lot of people now influence, so like that's their supplement.
TikTok.
But yeah, that is one thing. I'm like, shit, I should have like been an esthetician and like just like gone to beauty school and then like been able to work at a spa and give people facials like on my off time just to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, great advice. Love to hear that. And,
it's practical, okay? It's pragmatic.
And very, I just also want to, give you a shout out, Alexandra, because I know you've been involved in a lot of like charity work, and using your acting and to shine a light on different causes, and thank you for doing that, because I know a lot of actors don't do that. And so how cool. And best of luck with your movie and getting into directing. And yeah, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was nice to meet you and chat with you.
And I can't wait to see your next villain character that you want to create.
You'll see her. She's in my movie.
Right. Well, this has been another episode of A to the Show. How cool. Alexandra, thank you so much for your time. Go, check out your stuff. We're going to leave everything linked in bio. All right. Adios. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show. See you, Saeed. Salute to the camera and adios.